I don't care what a few of them did when they were 25 years ago, and they probably got nicked at a football match because the only people the police are allowed to bully and push around are white working class lads. And I don't care if they're a bit rough around the edges or if they're so old that all their hair's gone. Doesn't bother me. They are the bravest of the brave. And they got me there into the bear pit, and I was the bear surrounded by dogs. And I do not include Bonnie Greer in that, because she was a decent, charming, funny lady. Even when she was doing me down, she did it cleverly and well and funnily. I don't include her. The rest of them were dogs. And the bear had his paws tied by the ringmaster, David Dimbleby, and by one other thing as well. I had my paws tied by a decision that I'd made in discussing with other people, that I couldn't really beat them all, and I mustn't lose my temper. And I had to be calm and collected and defensive. And that's why, some of the time, they kicked me all around the floor. And when I did lose my temper and I turned on Jack Straw, and I thought, yeah, gotcha, right in the side of the But if I'd done that all the time, some of our people are disappointed. It's the ones who think that I can not only walk on water but also turn it into wine. I can't. I cannot perform miracles. They were disappointed. They were expecting something that was never going to happen. But by being calm and defensive and taking a kicking, partly as we thought, but I had no idea how much effect it was going to have, we've triggered, this time on our behalf, the regard for the underdog, for the brave fighter, for the ones who put up with all sorts of things they shouldn't do, the essential decency of our people. And personally, it was painful, but I tell you, that plan worked in a way that no one could have foreseen, and certainly not our opponents. Because at the end of that, I'm sure they were rubbing their hands with glee. And the papers the next morning, several of them were, and there was warning question marks in, say, The Guardian, which said they humiliated me, but a question that there were reports that a lot of people felt it had been unfair. And then the next day's papers, they're all now saying they're blaming the BBC, they're trying to blame me in effect. At the moment they're blaming the BBC for letting them try and beat me up. By tomorrow they'll be probably blaming me for letting myself get beaten up. It's all my fault. But it worked. I had a complete turnaround. And someone earlier on tonight said to me, it's happened again. It's happened so often. They do, our opponents do these wicked things to us. And for a few hours, we appear to be on the ropes. Then all of a sudden we turn it round. And whatever they do, whether it's attacking us, or doing us down, or trying to throw us in prison, whatever they do blows up in their faces. Why is that? Well, there's two reasons. Very often we make it happen. It's Simon Darby, John Walker on the press works. It's the internet team. Simon Bennett, Paul Golding. It's Mark Collett on propaganda. It's Arthur Kemp writing on the internet. It's Lee Barnes on legal things. Time and time again, it's our efforts. They come up against people who are politically and organisationally smarter than they are, because we've been at it for years with no resources. We've had to be smarter than they are to survive. We can't rely on the Mirror and the Guardian and the Mail and the Telegraph and Sky and ITN and BBC. We've got to do it ourselves. And we've learned to do it very, very well on a shoestring. I know to some of you it doesn't feel like a shoestring. You give us lots of shoestrings. Compared with the other parties, we only have the shoestrings, they have boots. And they often kick us, but time and time again we win. And there's another category when it happens, and this was like this yesterday. We don't do anything. It appears to be effortless. It just happens. Why is it? Now, some people think it's luck. And Napoleon used to ask before appointing a new general, Is he lucky? Well, by hell, this party is lucky. But also, I used to have doubts. I don't have any doubts anymore. I know it absolutely, and I know some of you know it. This is not a political party. This is a providential movement, the one which is going to save not just this country, but lead the salvation of our civilization and our people. There are far greater powers at work here than Jack Straw and David Dimbleby or Nick Griffin or anybody at all. This is providence at work. You'll see this time and time again. If you don't believe me now, watch it and you will see it in the future. That explains, all this explains, you can see the way in which the BBC overcooked it in a terrible, catastrophic way. That explains the sympathy that the British people now are showing towards the British National Party. But it doesn't for 1 minute explain why they're prepared to vote for us. It doesn't work. They can be sympathetic to the way that I was treated. But that shouldn't mean that they're going to vote for us. That's something going beyond that. That's because they agree with something. What do they agree with? The Liberals, the left, the Tories, or everyone in the Sunday papers writing tomorrow, they're going to be saying that this 22%, admitting that they're thinking about voting British National Party, we know for sure it's a third higher than that. Martin had been told that by pollsters years ago. But some people are scared to say they consider voting British National Party. That is not 22%, it's 30%, which means it's a third of our people, as a matter of fact. It's absolutely enormous, out of the blue, out of nowhere. That is not just out of sympathy. The sympathy's been the trigger, but they agree with things. What do they agree with? I'd say three things. They agree, they sympathise with, because they know something of what we stand for, because of all the people, you here, who've done the work over the years sowing the seeds. Every leaflet you put through a letterbox has sown a seed somewhere along the line. Those of you who financed the other activists to go out, who financed the party rolling forwards, as this club has done so much to do, you've sown the seeds, and this is those seeds germinating. The second thing is the things that I was actually allowed to say, which were things the Liberal elite, you know why they allowed me to explain how the English in particular feel, because we're so neglected? They allowed me to do that because they think that marks me out as a crackpot. Because they don't understand how millions of our people feel. We understand because we are them. They let me criticise Islam because they think it marks me out as an Islamophobe and a wicked man. And there's millions upon millions upon millions of Britons who thought absolutely right, especially when I didn't just criticise them, but I suggested the way out, which is fair, and that's the important thing, that we're legitimately entitled to resist the Islamisation of our world, and they are equally entitled to resist the westernisation of their world. And that's fair. And they let me say pretty much what I wanted to say about radical homosexuality. And they'd have thought what I said was absolutely monstrous. But millions of ordinary Brits watching that will simply have said, he's saying they shouldn't be persecuted. He's saying everyone should be entitled to do, behind closed doors, what they want to do, because otherwise the state is too monstrously powerful. But he's also exactly right. It's creepy. And I don't want it forced.